of the key ways we have harmony in relationships is viewing other people rightly. So often the reason why we don't have harmony is because we're looking at them for what they can give to us. And when they don't give to us what we're looking for, we end up being frustrated, and that comes out with animosity. And that disharmony begins to percolate because we had the wrong expectations and the wrong view to begin with. And Paul is answering that in Philippians chapter 2, verses 3 and 4, and really goes on to the whole kenosis passage about who Jesus is. But in Philippians 3, he says, do nothing from selfishness or empty conceit. So right off the bat there, he is saying, don't be about yourself. Don't strive to get things for yourself. Don't be dwelling upon yourself. It's amazing how often we have empty conceit, how often we're just thinking about ourselves. Even in a normal conversation, we're often thinking about ourselves as much as we're thinking about the other person. And Paul is saying, don't have that mindset. Instead, he says, have a mind that is humble. It's this word tapionosis, this idea where I'm lifting the other person up. I'm not seeking to put myself before them, but to, in a sense, self-deprecate myself so that I'm rightly oriented to this other person. And it says, and to regard one another as more important than yourself. And now, if you tell this to a famous sports player or a world-renowned musician, it's going to be hard for them when they're literally the best in the world, an Olympic athlete who's now got a gold medal. How does that person regard others as more important than themselves? Well, it's this idea, not that others could be better than me, but it's this idea that in terms of position, I'm here to serve this other person. When you look at the Greek behind it, it's this idea of this other person has a position of not quite authority, but of prominence over me, and that I'm here to serve them. And that's why he goes on to say, verse 4, don't merely look out for your own personal interests, but also for the interests of others. And that word look out there is the Greek word skopio. It's this idea of, like we get microscope and telescope from, that's this close, careful examination. Don't be carefully examining what you need, but carefully examine what other people need, and seek to look to the Lord how He might use you to be a blessing and a benefit and a minister to them. And then he ties this all in and he says, verse 5, have this attitude in yourself, which was also in Christ Jesus. And it goes on that wonderful passage about who Jesus is. All of that is just really an object lesson for the mindset we're supposed to have with other people. Just as Christ gave up what He had for others, just as Christ put others before Him, we're likewise to not be about that selfishness and empty conceit, but rather to be about putting others' interests first before ourselves and serving them.